Boss, if you look at everyone's Twitter and Instagram feeds, everyone calls himself an entrepreneur. What's the definition of an entrepreneur?
Well, there's two definitions. One is unemployable, which any boss is. I mean, I'm definitely unemployable, always have been from day one. That's what the boss used to come to me, bosses, and say, I say, hello, boss. He said, come on. It's like you saying, you're modest to humble. You're not. Stop this nonsense. You're the boss. Look, I've said to people that I've got, maybe even just driving a bus, whatever it is. I said, you're a boss. I said, no, we're not a boss. I said, you've got children? Yes. Do you guide them? Do you tell them what to do? Yes. You're a boss. So everyone has in them the capacity to be responsible for something. So if you're cleaning this table, that's your responsibility. And not someone should come and micromanage you and say, no, what happened there? No, you should be responsible for that and know that you've been trained to the level where you can deal with that. And that's the important thing. So back to the question of entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a situation where someone is a risk taker. And we do need to take risks to grow. We're taking risks all the time. You walk across the street, you're taking a risk.
Why do you think people are afraid of that risk? Is it themselves? Are they worried what someone else will think about them?
They're afraid of change. When someone says to you, oh, it's exactly the same as it's always been. No, it's not. That's just an act. So when people are being interviewed, you see a lot of people interviewed, they are actually acting in that interview. They're not themselves per se. They want to show a sort of, we are the same as you. There's nothing wrong with people being different and having their skill set. I mean, this is about, the rock stars in the property business. They have problems sometimes because they're being treated the same as everyone else. And they're not like everyone else.
I mean, what I've noticed especially in the property industry, estate agency and lettings industry, is that if you roll the clock back 20 years, if you were in your mid-late 20s, you'd stick one up to the boss and go and up your own agency. But people aren't opening up their own agency nowadays. Is that a lack of entrepreneurship? Is that a millennial thing?
That's because the business isn't as good as it was. You're seeing a lot of agencies closing, a lot of them are struggling. Countrywide having issues at the moment. Foxtons, the big super brands like Knight Frank are changing their approach to business to some extent. It's an evolving model.
Okay, yeah, but what would you say to someone who probably can't even afford to buy a house, let alone $100,000 to set up their own business? What do they need to do? Are they ever going to be self-employed, or do they just go for it and just say, hell, let's do it?
They do both. They stay with the job that they're in, they get a job, they stay in the job, and then on the side they develop their own brand until they get to a point when that own brand and their assets, they're using the money that they're earning from their work, their day job.
I would actually 100% agree with you, boss, because I have plenty of people that come to me saying, how do I set up my own agency? And the worst thing you can actually do is actually give up your job. I would actually say to anyone listening to this at the moment, is to say this: if you're a big big fan of creating a personal brand, and I think we as in a estate agency hide behind our estate agency brand. And the best thing that you can do is, if you want to set up a estate agency, because let's be honest, these people in their 20s, early 30s, if you're in your 20s or 30s, you're going to be working for the next 30 years, aren't you? 40 years probably. So I think it's patience. You've got to play the long game, haven't you?
Well, it depends on the brands. I mean, you've got Winkworth, their models has done quite well, I can see.
But forget the actual name across the door. Set up a personal brand using the power of social media by creating value in your town, by talking about the one thing that every homeowner and landlord is obsessed about, the property market.
Anyone that's successful, Chris, will ask if they're not doing well, you've got the middle runners who are sort of, getting by. And then you've got a 80-20 Pareto rule, the real performers. I've been that, I am that. And in that realm of those people, that's where most of the business is done. In all companies, Pricewaterhouse, whoever they are, big firms, small, medium, what you have to have is a situation where you retain them, or you say, you know what, you want to set up your own shop, we're going to be part of you, we're not going to finish the relationship. Because people in the past would be stealing, for want of a better word, client bases, but there was always a question of who owned that client base. If you developed it yourself.
So what would you say to, so let's just say you're a boss, you're in your 50s or 60s, and you've got a young whippersnapper who's in his 20s that you think he could go. Would you actually be advising the bosses to almost say, look, we don't want you to go, but appreciate you want to be your own business, we'll set up a joint venture?
100%.
Even if it's in the same town?
Yeah, for sure. And also you could do, I've got friends at Paramount, what they've done is in the past, they said to their people, right, you're going to be part of the business. We're going to give you an interest in the business. So you'll feel that you're genuinely working for yourself, not just, you have to
so you actually give, so do you think bosses should almost give away equity to keep their rock stars in their business?
100%. They have to do something to retain them. If I've got someone who says, right, broker of brokers, I want to really get involved with you in this, I'll say, okay, you want a piece of the action, you have to put down or show me big money. You're not just going to get it. But if you do that, of course, you need to be rewarded, retained. You can't do anything by yourself. Everyone talks about Warren Buffett. He had a partner. Yeah, Branson. Everyone has got partners. We have to. I know billionaires personally. One of my friends who was a billionaire died recently, and he always used to say to me, yeah, but you look more like the billionaire than me. That was his great guy. And so I learned about how he did things, and he would have partnerships everywhere. So you need to say to people, when you're good and you prove you're good, we want to develop something. I mean, there's these big agencies now who are saying, why don't you be a business within a business? And I've always liked that model because I think it gives people the opportunity. They had it in the insurance world for some time, as you know, probably.
Well, surely it's better to have 70% of something big than 100% of something small.
Again, it's a case of not being... That's where greed comes in. There's two forms of greed. There's good greed and bad greed. Good greed is where you say, look, we get asked to ambassador brands. So what happens, the first conversation that I have when I meet the people, and I like to see them this way. They might have a little look at my eyes, and that's about it. We'll see. But the point is, I will say to them, can I ask you a question? Do you have a problem with the broker of brokers making a lot of money out of this? And they go, no. But I look at their body language, and their body language is saying, yes. And this is where people are small-minded not to understand that. And this has been a cultural problem in this country, that people are afraid and uncomfortable in paying. I've had some massive commissions, and I've seen them giving the check to me or putting it across with fear, because they're saying, oh my God, I'm not comfortable. They're earning money.
But surely you've created more value.
Of course. But people have this sense. Unfortunately, the mindset of humanity, especially in certain countries, is one of jealousy, schadenfreude, envy, of saying, look, I'd rather not win than you win. You have that in football clubs.
Well, we have it in a estate agency where someone actually says, I'd rather pay a lower fee and get a lot less for my house than pay slightly more and get a lot more, because surely it's about the end, what you end up with, the net figure, not the top line figure.
Well, that's right, but you've also got to be able to say to them, look, it's not just a win situation and then we've taken the money from you, we've got our commission, and don't bother us again. No, this is where you need to understand about relationship building, and companies haven't got it.
What could they do to make themselves better?
Bring in the broker of brokers.
Okay, but let's just say they can't afford you.
We can bespoke a deal.
Okay, but let's just say, come on, give some value.
Well, value is there. I mean, we need to talk to them and give them the edge. So everyone can afford things if they're really serious about what they want to do.
Thank you.